Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Are we actually about to see a really big breakthrough like we have in previous years? Well, guess what? We're going to go over that today. Thank you for joining me. Do subscribe, drop a comment below, and hit the bell for the latest news in cryptocurrency. Now, Bitcoin has actually been doing fantastic considering the last couple of months, and it is finally actually starting to move in an upward kind of way. We're looking at MACDs, the RSIs, everything actually points to a good uptrend that's coming up soon. Now, as we're looking at the candles zooming in on today, it is rejecting the sell-off which is happening right now, which is actually a really, really great thing because we're kind of worried when we see these little candles. Remember, we go over this in previous videos before, and we just covered it about actually is the winter over, and it's showing these candles are really good in this moment because it is in fact rejecting the selling that's going on, which shows that more and more people are actually starting to buy in, and which is really going to make it. Now, considering that the volume's going on, right, the RSIs are looking great, so it's not showing too much volatility as typical Bitcoin has, but it is sitting today around 43,416, which is much, much better than 30 grand. But 30 grand is not necessarily a bad thing because we had the same thing from last year and the year before, and so forth and so on, around the same time frame. Now, given the fact that it is moving in somewhat of a sideways direction right now, it's not going to last forever, and this is going to apply for all of the coins that we're going to be discussing today. Looking at the previous time frames that we have, if we're going back to the same time, back into January, for example, we're going back into February, March, we have the same pattern happening right before our eyes. When we're looking at, let's see, there's June. You can see we had that sideways action back in June as well, a little bit going on before we had this big run coming in, and you're going to see it right now. So coming in, there's April, right? There's February, March. Here we go. That same kind of thing was happening towards the end of January. We're still about halfway through February, and we're looking at it right here. Now, it is happening a little bit earlier. Look, February 13th of last year, right? This is the same thing that's going on right now before your eyes. These same candles were happening off before it actually started going up. And of course, some sideways action slowly climbing and continuing to break all-time highs at around 65,000. Now, this is where we're looking at now. Now, am I going to tell you, is it going to jump to 65,000? Of course not. But it is showing the potential and giving you a little bit of a peace of mind that it's not really going to completely just disintegrate itself. Now, I would expect it to kind of be around 55,000 as we spoke in our last videos, probably here within March or April, right? So 50, 55, or March and April is really going to be a big point where we're really going to see it come up. The whole idea, of course, is to get back to 55,000, which I think is a pretty fair amount for Bitcoin. Now, I'm not going to sit and lie to you and say, oh, guess what, we're going to go to 200,000. I see this all the time. People are saying, hey, Bitcoin to the moon, we're going to reach 1 million by 2023. Probably not, but we do want to see it around a healthy market, around 55,000 actually. Recalled it back in November, December of last year that it's actually going to drop and fall, and that's because that is a typical situation. It's a typical thing that is going on with Bitcoin. And of course, what Bitcoin does, Ethereum does, and what Ethereum does, Matic does, and so forth and so on. Speaking of, looking at Ethereum is in the same pattern, which is going on. When you're looking at the volume levels, it's actually really good. We have some like downward size. You don't want to see a low volume and higher price. That is something that we don't want to see. That shows extreme volatility. It shows that it is very dangerous grounds, and you definitely don't want to trade in that. Just the same as you don't want to trade inside of a resistance level. The same thing. Now, we're not really in a resistance level. We're doing pretty great with that, how it's turning out to be now. But it does look like it's going to be some sideways action, some up and down here for the next couple of weeks before it actually starts jumping up as well. We want to see Ethereum actually jump up to around about 4K as well, but today it's sitting around 3,089. The uptrend still looks pretty well. It is getting a little close. It could drop just a little bit. I think maybe it can fall or dwindle around 3,000. Honestly, 2,500, 3,000 could kind of hang out for a little bit, but I would expect it to kind of reverse back out of that pretty soon. If we're going to speak about something too with Matic, since we're speaking on the two, now this is a big one, and when I say big, it's being the fact that it's showing a really ugly candle here, this red candle kind of coming off for the dailies, but it's not something that's going to be permanent, right? So Matic sitting at $1.86 right now. It's still great potential to move up as well. It's still kind of moving in, still have that upward trend going on, but I think we're going to kind of come back down out of that with some lower range going on, probably too. So it's not going to do as well. But there's a lot of battling going on between Ethereum and Matic, especially everybody's talking about Ethereum 2.0. But I would think that Matic is taking a little bit hit from that. But of course, if Ethereum is going to go up much more, it will pull Matic along up with it as well, and we'll see something from that in the upcoming weeks. XRP, now XRP is one of those coins, you've heard me say it probably 1,000 times already, that it is not a conservative coin. It is very touchy given the lawsuit that's going on. Now, we do have some downward action, some selling off going on. It is bleeding, but it does look like it's actually starting to get a little bit weaker. For speaking about the 7th of February, we have a really great candle, really exploded, really jumped up. This is just some retracement going on, but I do expect it to really continue to go up much, much higher here in the upcoming weeks as well. So I don't think it will stay down too much longer. And it's the same kind of action going on that we've seen before as well. We had a really huge drop off back in October, and of course before it reached an all-time, or I'm sorry, it reached back up to around $1.30. So we're seeing it's around 83 cents. That's where we're seeing this. Really, we don't want to go much lower than that. We want to pick up a little bit. We definitely don't want that to be, and of course we don't want 50 cents either sitting for XRP. But I do see that it will continue the uptrend once we just kind of pull out of this. Once we pull out of this drop, this retracement kind of going on, the volume is starting to kind of slower down, which we don't want that. We want it to pick back up. It's losing a little bit of power, but we'll see that in upcoming weeks as well. Now, speaking of Solana, Solana is one of those coins right now that's not doing too hot, and I don't expect it to really kind of hang out. If you're really wanting to know my prediction for Solana, I think we're going to kind of touch back base here. We're really going to retest this resistance coming off around 85 for Solana. I do see that coming up pretty soon. Like 90 bucks. I would see pretty soon, 92, something right around in this area. I would expect to see pretty soon. I don't think it's going to jump up as high as we want it. It's going to struggle it out just a little bit, but maybe potentially by middle of March we can actually reach back up to around 120 or so, given if the gods will let us. Let's take a look at the market. So Bitcoin for the day is down by 2.21%. It is up by almost 15% for the weekly at 14.12. Ethereum is up by 8.84% for the weekly and down by 3.88 for the daily as well. Speaking of XRP, now this is what makes this really good right now. Is up for the week. It's 32.79% for the week and only down by 6.24% for the day. Cardano is still doing the same typical thing that it has been doing for almost a year now. At $1.15, this is where I believe we reached that market cap for Cardano. It is down by 2.68 for the 24-hour period, but it is up by 8.32%. If you're looking at this in a long-term investment, maybe Cardano, maybe possibly, but don't expect to get rich from it, plain and simple. Solana is up by 0.12%, not even a percent yet for the weekly, and down by 5.99% for the 24-hour period, which is not a good sign. We definitely don't want to see that. AVAX is up by 26.98% for the week, which is doing pretty good, and by 0.5% of the 24-hour period as well. Polkadot's up by 6.37 for the weekly, and we are down by 5.99, so it's not too bad. We definitely don't want to see these dailies down by double digits. It does show some volatility kind of going on, a lot of selling if the entire market's in double digits for the daily. We don't want to see that, but with the weekly, all in all, is showing pretty good. The averages are moving up pretty well, and this is where we want to see. We definitely want to pay attention to those weekly averages kind of coming in. It shows strength of the uptrend, and that's where we see. So the bears do seem to be in town as well, and that's where we want to see. We want to see it keep moving up. Even Phantom is up by, for the weekly, 6.04% and down by 4.11. We want to see that move up a little bit. Phantom is a great gaming coin, really, really great, and we can expect some things coming from it as well. One more before we go. We do have Axis Infinity up by almost 31% for the weekly and down by 3.23. I would expect this one to take off too in the next week or two, so it's something we'll definitely check out in the near future. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, get the latest news, and don't miss out on the potential next big 5-10x coin. Thank you again.